Hello, everyone. I am Aura Vasquez, and I want to welcome you to another Aura VTH, which is a virtual town hall meeting that I host every Wednesday at 5 p.m. so that we can have a good conversation about politics, about culture, about current events, and more. So today I am super stoked. I'm beyond excited that I don't even know how I escorted this speaker, guys. I just want to let you know that I feel very lucky and I feel very flattered that he is with us because he is the current chair of the Progressive Caucus for the California Democratic Party. And I know that my community, all of you, sometimes talk about important people, and sometimes we feel that we don't have a real reach to them. So this is why I host these talks, so that we can kind of have an intimate conversation with him. So with no further ado, let me introduce you guys to Amar Shergill. He is the chair of the Progressive Caucus for the California Democratic Party. And I just want to welcome him. And please have your question ready. Hi, Amar. Welcome.
Hi. I'm sorry, first of all, these cameras aren't exactly in the same spot, but is it okay? Am I going to be all right? Your introduction was so generous, and then I don't have the tech perfect, so I'm just messing things up right out of the gate.
No worries. I mean, it's kind of interesting because I feel that I am in that sweet place where technology is very easy for me, but I was not born with like a cell phone or anything like that. I was born in the 70s. And so a lot of my peers are not very social media savvy, let's say. So they have a hard time. So no worries. We're going to navigate this with you. And we're going to have tons of questions for you also. But first, tell us a little bit about you and what the Progressive Caucus does for the California Democratic Party.
Well, the Progressive Caucus is a part of the California Democratic Party. So let's just back out a bit, though, because there's lots of different things people call the Democratic Party. So so there can be your local county party, and then so they handle all the local races. Then there's the statewide races that are handled by the California Democratic Party. In addition to assembly members and senators and state senators, you have the governor, the treasurer, controller, that type of stuff. And then that's different from the countrywide stuff, like the presidential campaigns, the DNC, and that. So within the California Democratic Party, it has 3,000 plus delegates, and those delegates organize on their own into caucuses. So there's a women's caucus, there's the Progressive Caucus, there's a labor caucus,
environmental caucus,
and one of those, usually the largest, is the Progressive Caucus, and I happen to be the chair. My second term is coming up. I'm running for election right now, actually.
Wow, excellent. Well, congratulations. Thank you for your service. So what exactly does the Progressive Caucus do? So if a delegate, like I'm a delegate, and I'm very grateful to all of the viewers right now because a lot of them supported me to get elected. And I'm a delegate. I'm in the executive board also. So like people like me, why should I join the Progressive Caucus?
So all of the caucuses are about organizing around issues or identities. But the Progressive Caucus has a very special role because it's ideological, right? Our role is very specific on the left side of the left party, on the left coast, and we're unapologetic about it. And we're not afraid to make trouble about those issues. And we've been successful. There's a reason why Bernie Sanders won the primary in California, is because activists like those that are in the Progressive Caucus got out on the streets and organized. So all of those folks tend to be in the Progressive Caucus, but inside the party, we have a special role as the conscience of the party. So left to its own devices, the party will do what the party does, which is all the incentive structures are towards money. All the incentive structures are towards genuflecting to power, to corporations, and it's our job to bust that up. And when things go sideways, it's our job to hold the party officers and elected officials accountable, because really, if we don't do it, it's not going to happen.
Right. I totally agree. And I consider myself a true progressive. Last year I ran for city council here in Los Angeles, and I took no fossil fuel money. That was very important to me. For a very long time, I have been a long-standing environmental justice organizer here in LA, so that was important. And we're going to talk about a little bit about that, because there is a little bit of drama around the money in politics right now in our party. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But can someone, for example, people that are watching right now, can they join the caucus without being a delegate?
Yeah, anybody can join the caucus, which is
Cool.
sort of the neat part, is that we have a bunch of delegates, but we also have folks that aren't, and they can have leadership roles in the caucus if they want to. And, we are always here to facilitate the grassroots organizing that other folks are doing. So, there was a couple of years ago, we had a housing seminar, that talked about the problems, particularly in Los Angeles, that we have with housing. And, we've had seminars on the role of Black women in the party. And, so, any issue that comes up, the Progressive Caucus is happy to host and facilitate so that we can lift up and give power to those folks that are doing the organizing. So, yeah, if you've never heard of what goes on in the party, if you've never been in a delegate, you don't know what ADEMS is, you don't know what the CDP is, forget all that technical stuff. Just show up, be a part, listen, and then find a spot where you think you fit in.
Okay, amazing. That's such a good point, and I think I'm going to be rallying up some of my my followers and the people that, like, my supporters, to maybe join some of these caucuses. I think it would be so great for some people that are not delegates to also participate in this process. So that's something that I didn't know, and this is also awesome. Well, so I'm getting already some questions, but before we go there, I encourage people that are watching to post their questions on the comments and let us know what you think about our conversation. So right now, in a few weeks, the California Democratic Party is going to meet at the California Democratic Convention. And for some of you that maybe don't know, every year, twice a year, the delegates and the Democrats meet, all sorts of people, even the ones that are not delegates. And this is the place where we get to elect a lot of the what they call officers, like a lot of the chair of the California Democratic Party, which is what like ignited this conversation. People that are in caucuses, it's a very active time. So I guess first I want to ask, why is it so important for people, for everyday people that are watching, that maybe are lawyers, teachers? I have some of my followers work in tech. Some of my followers are moms. Why should they care about the chair of the Democratic Party?
Look, I think the most important thing to remember, and it's not just the party, it's about that we're involved in our lives, is that the devil is in the details. And the details of political process are decided in this state by the chair of the California Democratic Party. I mean, God bless the Republicans, they're all doing their thing, but they're not about to win many elections, right? And then, God bless the corporations, they do what they do, and they win races and issues sometimes. But the power structures in California right now are controlled by the California Democratic Party, and that means legislators for sure in the assembly, congressmen and women for sure in DC, but also a big part of that control is in the party. And the party is set up so that the chair of the party controls everything. He is an elected monarch. So he decides all of the appointments, who controls what. He decides all of the money, how it's spent, and all of the money that we take in. So, for example, we've seen this discussion over the last month or so. The chair pledged when he was running, Chair Rusty Hicks, that he would not take fossil fuel money.
And he's also running right now. So, just for folks that don't know.
Yeah, it's relevant. These elections are coming up. The elections are underway. People are voting, and he should be held accountable. Because when we talk about control, he is the one that is just, acting in direct contradiction to his own word and to his pledge to the delegates and to what delegates have said to him. But the reason he can do that is because he has full authority. And, there are some leaders who, are very respectful of the authority that they are given, and others who consolidate power and ignore the voices of the people that they purport to lead. And unfortunately, Rusty has ignored his pledge, broken his pledge not to take fossil fuel money, and then ignored the direct instructions from delegates not to take fossil fuel money. And he took $330,000 of dirty fracking money. And that's just not what we expect from those that we ask to lead us.
And thank you for that. And for those of you that are just kind of walking in and saw me live here with Amar, I'm talking to the chair of the Progressive Caucus. And the conversation that we're having is that the Democratic Party took 300 or 330. Let's just say $330,000 from Sempra Energy, which is a company that sells fossil fuel like gas and such. I mean, it's very simple. So for a lot of us, we have been questioning why the chair would allow something like that, since he is the head of the household. And some of the talks that I have been with him, he has mentioned that he took a pledge to not take any fossil fuel money, which is more troublesome. And then said, but he didn't take the money, the party did. So what do you have to say about that?
Look, that is just the worst type of political answer. I mean, you can give that answer, and he has over and over again. But if you stand up in front of the delegates and you say, and you write, and you put your name on a pledge that says, I am not going to take fossil fuel money, that means you don't take fossil fuel money. It's not like in this box I will, and in this box I won't. And what's interesting is that we got audio of him telling a group of people that his understanding of the pledge, this is him, said that he would not take fossil fuel money for any campaign he was connected to. And gosh, if you're the chair of the California Democratic Party, you're connected to that party. So, I mean, I guess he has to say something, so he's throwing stuff out there, but it's just not credible.
Yeah. Okay. It's nice that we're establishing that, and that people know this is a little bit of what's happening, like what I call the drama in the back end. But beyond drama, guys, what this is really showing is that we are at a state that we live in California that takes great pride of being an environmental leader. Just last week, LA basically released their roadmap to get to 100% renewables. So it's ironic and it's despicable, in fact, that we have a party that is still taking fossil fuel money. So I know that there is a resolution on the floor right now that is asking the party to actually not take any fossil fuel money moving forward. So I just wanted to say that for a little bit of context. But I also want you to talk to us about so Rusty is the current chair, and this is who he is. He's a lawyer. He's someone that is coming also from labor. He's very backed by labor. He used to be the lead, or el jefe, the LA County Fed, which is like all of the unions kind of come together, and he used to lead that piece. And I have my own stories about my own meeting with them when I met with them last year. But I spare you guys the details because they're just too fun. And we're talking about serious things here. But I mean, imagine the Latina environmentalists asking for support when I was running for also against someone that was taking fossil fuel money. But in any case, talk to us about who's running for chair right now. So one is Rusty, who we kind of met just now or heard about. And who else is running?
Sure. The other candidate is Delaine Easton. So she's a former councilwoman in the East Bay. She's a former assembly member. She's the first woman to be elected statewide as the superintendent of education. She has, a history of winning elections and being on the right side of progressive issues. She's just could really be a breath of fresh air for the party. I mean, we have again and again elected white men to lead this party, and it just makes sense to elect a competent, accomplished, experienced, trusted leader like Delaine Easton. Is it obvious I'm supporting Delaine Easton? Have I made it clear?
I think the Progressive Caucus is supporting her, especially with this kind of money taking and power grabbing. But one of the things that I have been talking about, I've been talking to my other fellow delegates in my district is, okay, it's clear that the chair has too much power. It's very clear. How can we change that? How can the power be shared? Because right now, the chair of the party is the one that appoints everyone on every role. So if you're not in his, I mean, if you're not in his beloved list, what happens? So what
Yeah,
happens to us?
yeah. If you're not on the list, you're out. You have
Mm-hmm.
no opportunity to give your voice in the party in an official capacity, other than just to lobby and advocate. And that's really the problem, is that if we are a party that believes in democracy and believes in diversity of voices, it makes no sense to elect over and over again a white male chair that has all the power to do whatever they want. It just doesn't make any sense. So on identity politics alone, it makes no sense. But what also doesn't make sense is that we make better decisions when the room is diverse. When we bring more voices into the conversation and their experiences, and we talk amongst each other and learn from each other, we make better decisions. And that's what Delaine Easton is committed to, is to reforming the party, divesting power from the chair down to the delegates through committees or through caucuses. And let's give some credit to the current vice chair, Doraka Lairmore Hall, who is running
It's
for
great.
re-election. Yeah, he's great, and he has been leading on these issues for quite some time,
Mm-hmm.
on how to reform the party. And his voice hasn't been heard because the chair has no interest in giving up the power that he has consolidated in his tight hands. So there's
Right.
a lot of different ways that we can do that. Divesting power from the chair. But right now, none of that is going to happen if we don't change the chair.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love Deraka too, and I actually support him. And it's not that I'm in his campaign or anything like that. I know him for many years now, and I think he's fantastic, and he's really speaking truth to power. So more kudos to him.
Yeah,
So
for
okay,
sure.
so I want to just read this comment from someone in the audience that says, "I'm all for union power and organizing labor at all industries and levels, but somehow some unions look for any well-paying jobs and support the companies even in fracking." So there is definitely so much work that we need to do to make sure that workers have a just transition, especially when it comes to environmental jobs or green jobs. And also, I really hope that I can't help to feel sometimes that a lot of this mentality or this thinking is very outdated, and it's just not moving us forward. And I see that at our party right now. I see how I beg people to register to vote for me. It was the most cumbersome process.
Yeah.
We were in the middle of a pandemic and the largest Democratic Party in the country. One of every 5 Democrats lives in California. We couldn't figure out how to do an online vote.
Yeah, it was a
What's
mess.
going on with our party? Like, I mean, these are like the details that that are hard to at least to swallow for me. So I just wanted to express my dissatisfaction with the leadership, because I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, I'm with you on that. The delegate elections you're talking about, the A Dem elections, were a bit of a mess. Not a bit. I mean, there were a lot of mess, and I had to help lead the way to force Chair Hicks to count ballots that he refused to count just because
yeah, I
they were
remember that.
late in the mail, and it
Mm-hmm.
was distressing. But to answer the comment that was on, about the role of labor in the party, let's be clear. There's no Democratic Party without labor. There's no worker movement without capital L labor.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't progress in this nation without unions and labor organizing.
Mm-hmm.
But all of labor is not the same. There is progressive labor, and there's labor that has challenges because those folks are trying to protect their livelihoods. And we shouldn't be upset with folks that want to keep good paying jobs. That is normal. Every one of us would do it. So it's up to leadership to say, what are the solutions to this problem, right? How are we going to protect the livelihoods, while we also take care of the planet? And the challenge for the party is just not being met right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we want folks from labor, but we don't want folks that don't hear the different voices of the party, or when they do hear the voices, just ignore it. Because when we talk about, we're talking about fossil fuels, but it's really, an issue that plays out for Rusty Hicks over and over again. But with fossil fuels, he asked a committee of delegates to get together. He asked them to discuss this fossil fuel issue and corporate money issue. His people on that committee, gave him the instruction, don't take private incarceration money, don't take fossil fuel money, and don't take these other things. If you're the leader, you've got to listen to those voices, because those voices include labor, they include progressives, they include everybody else, and they came together and gave a recommendation, and then he ignores it. And that's
why do you even ask? I have so many comments about this, but I see all the comments also getting through here.
Yeah.
So in this topic of the chair, I want to bring it back a little bit. We can dive in on this, talk about the fossil fuel money all day.
Right.
I feel like people are really in touch. More and more. 30 years ago, when I started working on environmental issues, when I was 11 years old, I was the only one that cared. There were a few of us that cared about the pandas and things like that. But now it's really ingrained. Everyone wants to protect our planet and knows that something is changing and we got to do something. So I feel like we've done a great job in uplifting and talking about this issue. But, a lot of people that follow me because I ran for office. They follow me because I'm progressive. They follow me because I am a regular person that rents her home, that, takes the bus. And I seen a trend of good candidates here in LA, all around the country, that want to run for office and have no support from the party. So what's the role of the chair on that? And I want to just name a few. I have my homegirl, Fatima, running right now for assembly. Fatima. I have Angelica Dueñas. Wonderful. This is her second run. Nithya Raman, who actually made it to the city council, but she got no support whatsoever from the Democrats. So talk to us about the role of the chair in this specific process.
Let's be honest about what happens with progressive candidates, is that, when they stand up for the values of the people that they are going to represent, instead of the power structures and instead of the corporations, they make those institutions scared. So it's very often that they don't get support from the party. And we can't afford to stand around and wait for the party support to come, because it often doesn't. So we have to do what people like Nithya does, which is, people like Katie Valenzuela up here in Sacramento, Mai Vang here in Sacramento, is that you have to organize around and around the party. And we've seen that can be effective. And while that is happening, while those campaigns don't wait and they continue to organize, we're working inside the party step by step to increase our presence, to try to provide resources and opportunities for a party takeover. And, a couple of years ago, we got within 30-something votes of that happening. And we're going to try it again this time with Delaine Easton. But it's not just about the chair's race. It's about the delegates that make up the party. So it means winning more county chair races, winning more delegate elections, and making sure that the people that win those elections, who say that they're progressive, are also willing to stand up against the party when those tough votes come in. Because it's just a waste of time to elect somebody that says, I'm Green New Deal, Medicare for all, against incarceration, for a pathway to citizenship, but I'm going to go ahead and endorse somebody that believes in none of those things. It's not enough to believe those things. You have to vote for those things inside the party. And the organization we've been working on, brand new, called the Progressive Delegates Network, that's what it's laser focused on, is not just finding progressives to be inside the party, but finding progressives with the courage to vote their values when they're in the party.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very grateful that the Progressive Delegate Network endorsed me. and supported me on running for delegate. And look, I made it to even be on the e-board, which is like extra
Awesome.
special.
Yeah,
For
for
those
sure.
of you that for those of you that don't know, I get to also sit in other meetings and be on the executive committee representing all of your voices. So thank you for that.
The executive board can be very important. Without the executive board, we would not have gotten 1,500 ballots counted in the last delegate elections. They would have been left on the floor of the party uncounted had the executive board not demanded that this happen.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and it was interesting because I see some people in the comments saying here, I lost by 1 vote. So it's always such a such a bittersweet spot. But I want to bring up there has been some questions on Instagram about what is the party, and maybe you know this, but maybe this is a good question for the people running for chair. Somebody asked that what is the party doing to ensure that Spanish speaking folks are that the website is, wait, hold on, let me find the question here. That how is the Caucus to ensure the party engages in the Spanish speaking community? Actually, he's asking about the caucus in general, but I want to extend this to the party. Engages in the Spanish speaking community. The website and app for the CA Dems was purely in English, despite the high number of Spanish speaking voters. That is real.
Look, let's just face it, the party has failed when it comes to Spanish speakers or any other emerging
Korean,
community.
Armenian,
all of them
so
just
many
failed. My first meeting with Rusty Hicks, this is the issue I presented to him, is how are we going to invest in emerging communities and get those folks that aren't voting right now to speak to them in languages they understand, using themes they appreciate, in ways that connect with them. And if you look around California, where we lost 4 congressional seats, those seats are in places where we failed to connect with emerging communities. So you take a look in the Central Valley, the Hmong community, the Sikh Punjabi community, which is my people. Take a look at Orange County, where we have the Korean community, Vietnamese community, Hispanic community everywhere in the state, particularly in those places where we lost seats. If we had done a better job connecting with those people, we would have won all 4 of those seats. We lost all 4. We lost 13 across the country, 4 of them, the most of them here in California.
Wow.
If the House is at risk next election, it's because California is not getting it done.
Wow, that is I didn't even realize that analysis was so necessary. Thank you for bringing that up. And someone is posting someone is sharing a thought. I don't think this is a question, but it's a provoking thought, and it's a trend that I see. I saw somebody else saying the Democrats have been failing us. We need a new party. So somebody else said that, but this person says that he would like to hear from the Progressive Caucus. If the chair doesn't make changes or the party doesn't make changes, if you don't put us in power, we will support the recall. So where are we on the recall, and are we willing to split the party rather than continue with the way things are?
Look, this is the age-old dilemma for progressives, is that when you divide the vote on the left, you end up with somebody on the right. And some folks will say that's worth it for 1 term or 2 terms in order to teach the Democratic Party a lesson.
To shake it up, like what happened with Trump.
Right.
We needed that.
Yeah, but look, I just don't believe in that. And here's the reason, and Trump is a good example, is that what happened is for 4 years you had an immense increase in human suffering that will resonate for decades in the Supreme Court and on federal benches and in the administrations. And I just can't be a party to that. What I am committed to is working to fix the party that is fixable. And obviously the Republican Party is a misogynist, bigoted mess, and it's a lost cause. Yeah. But what we can do is try to fix the Democratic Party. And we are making progress. Now, that doesn't mean I'm out here throwing bombs at the Working Family Party or the Progressive Alliance or anybody else. I'm here to support their work and we
Yeah.
will be allies in
I
that. But
love the Working
yeah,
Families Party for
right.
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
why would you want to be against a party that helped elect AOC, right? So support all that stuff. But in my analysis, given the way that our laws are set up now, and our political parties are set up now, and let's face it, the branding that is already out there with the voters, I just don't think it's credible right now that we're going to be effective in beating the Democratic Party in California. In some smaller states, maybe that's more likely,
Different.
but yeah, but in states where they don't have a top two primary, or they have a far larger, denser population, there are different factors that can make it likely. But in California, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. There's someone else here that is actually been sharing a lot of his thoughts. And he says, outside of splitting the party, how can we push to welcome in already existing third four parties, like I'm assuming like the Working Families parties, to expand the options and make it more of a democratic process. Even DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, that I mean, people are so scared to hear socialists, but they love the firefighters and they love public education.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that this is social. This is a socialist idea.
Well, I think that's changing, though. I don't think
Mhm.
socialism is the big scare word that it was before for younger people. Um, but to answer your question, this is just a basic organizing task. And, if folks want to know how to make the change that they want, you have to organize your community. You have to get off of social media. You have to get off of Twitter.
Talk to
You
people.
have to go talk to your neighbors. If you talk to your neighbors and explain to them the ways in which you are going to make their lives better and improve the lives of their children, they will come with you on that journey. They might not fight the same way you're going to fight or as often as you're going to fight, but if you ask them and you explain it to them, they will join you on that journey. And it's not that hard to take over your local county Democratic Party. Maybe in Los Angeles County, but almost everywhere else, this is a doable thing.
It's
Um,
doable.
it is absolutely doable. And even in Los Angeles, if every community has its organizers, which gets those people out to club meetings or gets them to sign on to club meetings, we amalgamate those votes, we turn those into a delegate to your county party. You get enough of those delegates, and next thing you know, you're in control of the California Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And
And,
and
and I
that's
just
and that's a task. That's it.
and I just want to say I'm no president of the Los Angeles or the LA County committee or anything like that. But look, I have never run for delegate. This was something that was actually new to me, just like a lot of people that I know in my community. And we organize, we work really hard. And I want to give a big shout out to everybody that supported that process. And not only I became for the first time a delegate, but also a member of the executive board, which is extremely important. So I just wanted to say that it is true that we can do a takeover if we work together and if we organize, it can happen. So
Yeah, and a second thought on that, and I'm sort of an example of it. If you have a community in your area which is not involved in the Democratic Party, that's the community you should be talking to, right?
mhm.
Don't keep on going after the folks that are involved and try to get them to move. And maybe if you give them the argument, these people will maybe come over your side. And there are so many communities that are emerging that if you talk to them, if you invest the time with them, you ask them to find their own young leaders, whether it's Hmong or Asian or Latino, or you pick a country, whether it's Nicaragua or Cuba or whatever. Um, if you find those leaders who want to lead their community, bring them into the party, you can change the party. And for myself, I got involved, whatever it was, 8 years ago or so, and there weren't a lot of folks like me. I'm from the Sikh faith-based community, and there weren't a lot of Sikh Punjabis like me in the party. Now, in this past election, along with me, we elected a really amazing hardcore group of 20 something Sikh delegates who are
That's
all
amazing.
about representing us, being allies to, all of the progressive issues, and they're ready to fight for themselves and for others. There is no reason that cannot be replicated by every single emerging community in the state. And if you are one of those emerging communities, do it. If you live in a community where you see people like that and they're not involved, go find their leaders. Those leaders are your best allies.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Absolutely. I agree. In LA, for example, we have a beautiful emerging Belizean community.
There you go.
Salvadorian community that yet haven't hold any public, office, in terms of city council and such. This conversation about the third party is igniting a lot of chatter on the comments, by the way. People seem to be very, very excited and there's a lot of questions about that. And I almost want to first answer those before going to the money and the donations, because there are some other questions about it. But somebody's asking, how can the Democratic Party, the California Democratic Party, work towards rank approval voting or multi-member districts? We need to break the two-party power structure and set an example to other states. And I want to just the caveat to that question, I want to talk about districting, because gerrymandering is also so important for us in terms of like where we all land and how many city council members there is and how many people they represent. So what's your take on this question?
I think whether we talk about ranked choice voting or multi-member districts or any of these policy issues, whether they're focused on elections or not, these are really all a function of the party dynamics. So you're not going to get movement on these issues until you get more of our people involved.
More of the spirit,
Yeah, so we are advocating on these, and there are supporters. I mean, we've got public banking passed recently. We've got CalCare that's on deck now. We have Ash Coller's led and Kevin McCarty's led on racial equity in sentencing and in trials. So these things are getting passed, but we need more folks on the ground organizing, bringing their delegates into the party so that we can do the things like you're mentioning, which are really going to alter the fundamental power structure in the party.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I ran for office, one of my policy platforms was to have more city council members, at least in Los Angeles. It's only 15. Each of them represents 250,000 people. That's a lot to serve someone and serve them with dignity and with love and serve them well.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we have but there's other cities in the country which have 3, 4, 5 times that number.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like New York and Chicago, which is like in density the most similar to Los Angeles. New York has 51 city council members. 51. We have 15. So something to think about.
No, for sure.
I was not going that far, but at least I want to double, so that we could serve better. Okay, I want to go back to the question about donations. So somebody was asking, what's the maximum contribution? But I wasn't sure if it was to the party. I know that all of it has different, rules. So
so there's different contributions depending on whether you're state or county or your jurisdiction or Senate. But if we're talking about the party can consume almost unlimited funds. And what people don't understand, I think, about the party is that the number one function of the party is to take as much money as it can from the biggest donors it can find and bring that in, clean it, and then give it to elected officials. So when we talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars from SEMPRA or from law enforcement or from the gig economy corporations that were against us in these props, or the big commercial developers, those people are free to just pump as much money as they want to in the party, so it still gets to the elected officials. So when people ask me about contributions, I don't spend a lot of time memorizing the contribution limits, because I know that there's just so many ways to get around that. That's just not where I'm going to focus my time.
I mean, and super quick to just zoom into that, which was a very hard lesson that I learned personally. was independent expenditures. So the idea that any entity that opens a committee, so a PAC, and I know a lot of our people in the progressive world are so scared of PACs, and but this happens. And if you are in any of those democratic, those are PACs too, friends. Okay, so I just want to let you all know. But anyone, so let's say a rich person in my district can open an independent expenditure and spend as much money for or against me when I'm running without coordinating with me. That's the only rule. They cannot coordinate with the elected.
Yeah.
So
no, they can coordinate. They just can't be caught coordinating. There's a big difference. Because I know there are jokers for those corporations out there coordinating, but we just don't. You don't have the proof.
There is no trace. There is no trace.
Right. I know those massive corporations are not accidentally all spending the money at the same time and coordinating messages with the elected officials. Come on.
Okay, so that happens in the back end, friends.
For sure.
And, but something that was that I kind of like I realized is that as someone that wants to put limits on donations, I want to put limits in corporate donations. I want to put limits on fossil fuel donations. Something that I realized as I was calling friends, family, posting on social media, telling them that I was running, asking them for $5, $10, I realized that a lot of the more established people that are connected to these industries, they don't care, because they are coordinating like you're suggesting. They're coordinating somehow, and they're like getting their way without even having to fundraise at a high amount. So it really poses. So this is personally something that I experienced that has this double-edged sword, basically. That I was like, oh man, I'm like asking to put more restrictions on people, but that includes me, and I'm like the little fish. The big fish, they know how to swim in the water, and they have sharks helping them, and they have Nemo, and I just have a bunch of little Nemos with me, and like, what are we gonna do? So something to think about that is important for us to figure out how, and this is why the role of public funding campaigns is so critical. That we can help, grassroots candidates. And a big shout out to Fatima that is in the house. I see her in the chat. I see her in the conversation. So thank you. Okay, I want to just ask you, and just to like kind of wrap up. Wow, 45 minutes. Remember we talked about this, and I was like, it's gonna be a half hour, but it's gonna be very lively.
Yeah. But before we leave, let's talk about something. Before we leave, I want to talk about this beautiful sweatshirt afterwards. We can, whenever you want, this hoodie.
Okay. I want to hear all about it for sure. But I love this question so much because it speaks to the organizer in my heart. How do we obtain leadership positions without being a delegate? So again, these are people that are like, oh crap, I didn't even know, like me. If it's seriously, and I want to give a big shout out to Stephen Butt for like calling me without knowing me and saying, you need to run for delegate. The Democratic Party needs you. And I was, what? So like how do we make sure that people that are not delegates are also in leadership?
So all of the caucuses are open to any Democrat. And you can go to the party website, cadem.org, and click on the caucuses. They have all the caucuses listed there. You can join. And every one of them, you can ask for a waiver of fees if you don't want to pay the $5 or $20 or whatever that they are charging for annual membership fee. And in those organizations, you can be elected to be an officer, or not the chair, but you can elected to be an officer, vice chair, or whatever, without. And that again is just an organizing task. You get a bunch of people to join up. You go to meetings. You talk to other people. You get your support, and next thing you know, you're elected.
Absolutely. I love that. And I just want to reiterate to this point that you don't need to have a PhD. You don't need to go to Harvard. You don't need to be a millionaire. You don't need to be sitting in the next to the mayor or the city council members. Like, there is so much power in organizing with other people. And you don't need a fancy title. You don't even need to work for an organization. You can do so much by talking to your neighbors and starting putting the building blocks together and figuring out what are some of the things that matter in your community so that you can make those changes. So please don't let anything stop you. Don't let anybody tell you that you don't speak English, or you speak too much, or you don't have an accent, or you have an accent, or, just none of that. We are
Yeah.
powerful beyond measure. So I just want to, say that. Okay, so just to wrap up, talk to us about your sweatshirt, your hoodie.
Oh, my hoodie. First of all, how beautiful is this hoodie, right? This is just, look at that. That's just a beautiful hoodie. But what it says is, Kisans. So Kisans is Punjabi, and I'm Punjabi, and it means farmers. So this is about the farmers in India right now. Some of you may not know, but if you go on Twitter and look up a farmers protest, hashtag farmers protest, in India right now, there is the largest protest in the history of humanity. Sometimes 1 billion people on the streets. And what's happening there is the Indian government is attempting to commoditize, commercialize, corporatize the entire agricultural industry in India. And India is like the United States was maybe 100 years ago or 67 years ago, is that it is mostly small farms, mostly under 5 acres. People who are farming their own land.
Moms and pops.
Right, exactly. And what the Indian government wants to do is allow corporations to lean into that process and essentially take over those farms and impoverish half of the country. And folks sitting here in the United States might say, okay, well, that's India's problem, whatever. But that process of changing the rules in India and giving corporations the leverage over buying and selling crops, and eliminating farmers' access to the courts and forcing them through arbitration, and eliminating the ways they have traditionally sold their crops, all of that is being powered by the United States.
It sounds very GMO to me.
Yeah, it is. It is. If you think of the GMO model, it's very much like
it sounds very GMO to me. Yes.
Yeah. So the GMO model that we've seen over decades past has now turned into the tech model. So Facebook has put billions of dollars into India. The angel investors right here in California put billions of dollars into India. And their idea is to take all of these individual mom and pop farms and turn them into glorified Ubers and Lyfts, where they have all the power, and they crush these mom and pops, take over their land, take their way of life, change what villages look like, change what towns look like, and make it all about profit for folks right here in California.
Yeah. And we got it. So I definitely want to encourage everyone to support these efforts, to support the efforts of the farmers in India.
Hashtag farmers protest.
There you go. Hashtag farmers protest. Somebody please put it on the comments so that I can put it in here somehow. Yeah. And because this is how we beat corporations over people. This is exactly what that means, that we have corporations coming together and really playing with fate of a whole other country, communities that are going to be completely crushed. And I'm very familiar, and it's a very an issue close to my heart. I'm from Colombia. My grandmother was a farmer, and it's just been excruciating to see all these traits and all these trans-Pacific, treaties among countries that leave nothing for the people in the foreign countries. And I just like to kind of bring all of this together, and then you wonder, well, all these immigrants want to come here. Why are they exposing their lives and crossing the border, and you hear the Republican argument that they're breaking the law? Well, guess what? We're going to their countries and taking all of their resources so that we can make more profit here. So please support people over profit every day, and farmers protest. Use it, say it, go talk to your Congress member and everyone basically, and tell them to support the Indian farmers. What can we do to support you besides just creating awareness? I see some people they want to endorse you for Congress. I think that's kind of a good idea.
Thank you for that. But right now I'm running for chair of the Progressive Caucus, and then we have great people. So find me on Twitter, Amar Shergill CA, or find me on Facebook, and you'll see information. You can go to shergill.com, SHERGILL.com. That'll take you to my Facebook page, and then you will get all the information regarding joining the Progressive Caucus. So if you want to join directly, you can go to cadem.org, join the Progressive Caucus, and then you will be voting in just 1 month for the leadership of our caucus. And it's a big deal because the caucus is the only place where we hold Democrats accountable inside the party. If we don't do it, it doesn't get done.
So any of you watching, whether you are a delegate or not, you can go and register right now to be part of any of the caucus. And if some other caucus speak to you, please join them too. And that's how you can support Amar in his race to continue to be the Progressive Caucus chair. Amar, thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It's been such a pleasure having you. One last question. Until when people can register to be part of the caucus?
Right now, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go to cadem.org and you'll find the registration links there for all the caucuses. Yeah, so just go right now.
Okay, but until when people have time to register, do you know?
So the elections are on May 1st. So you can register all the way up until the election. Obviously, after that, you can still register too. You just can't vote.
Okay, guys. So you got until May 1st, maybe?
Yeah, but just do it now. Why wait?
Don't wait until then. Exactly. Don't wait until then. Just do it now. CADEM is the California Democratic website. So it's CADEM, CADEM. I believe it's .org or .com.
Yeah, or just find me at shergill.com and I will make sure that you get hooked up.
There you go. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a pleasure speaking with you. I hope you come back.
Yeah, sure.
So we can talk about more interesting things. We definitely got people going, so that's good.
Yeah, this is fun. It's always good to talk about accountability and transparency in the party.
Yeah, and congratulations for running. Thank you for running, and wish you much luck, and I'll see you at the convention.
Yeah, for sure. All right, everybody, take care.
All right, thank you. Okay, guys. Okay, let me see. Ooh. Okay, Amar is still here on Instagram. How exciting. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. As you know, the conversation always continues online. You can continue posting your comments and questions. If this is relevant, if you learn something, if you think other people need to hear the things that we spoke about today, please feel free to share with them, send them a message, send them a link, and I'll see you on the next VTH. Thank you. Bye.